जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरावनचारी, यमुना तीरावनचारी, जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे, जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम, जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय, जय जय प्रभुपाद जय श्रील प्रभुपाद, हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय। So let's chant the Mangalacharan. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। So like last time, let's chant these prayers together. You can unmute yourself. Okay. Namah Vishnupadaya
नमः विष्णुपादाय
Krishna Presthaya Bhutale
कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले
Shrimate Bhaktivedanta
श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत
Swamin iti namine.
स्वामी इति नामिने
Namaste Saraswate Deve
नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे
Gauravani Pracharine
गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
निर्विशेष शून्यवादी
पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे
पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य
प्रभु नित्यानंद
प्रभु नित्यानंद
श्री अद्वैत गदाधर
Shri
Shri Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhara
Gadadhara
Shriwas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Divas
Srivas
Adi
Adi
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakti
Bhakta
Gaura
Vrinda
Bhakta
Hare
Vrinda.
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Krishna Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Hare Rama
Rama, Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. Anybody remembers which verses we did last week? This is the section of the class that I'm sure you don't like it, but we should still do a recap. So which verses did we do last week?
uh, 31 onwards, and in which Krishna ji is saying Arjun, being a Kshatriya, it's needful that he does these duty, and so
Correct.
he should do it. One is that, and the other is that if he doesn't do, then what happens? So both sides why he should do, and if he doesn't do, if he doesn't fight, then what happens? So both
Correct. Nice.
points covered.
So what happens if he doesn't do it?
Those the points which cover that pride and you know being it comes on his image sort of, this not disrespectful is the word. You had given those three examples of uh, like uh, like when Duryodhan made fun of them just before the battle started. So similar kind of incidents can happen. So that's the reason which will tarnish their image, sort of being a Kshatriya, and they will have to go through that listening from the society again. So that's one of the reasons.
Correct. So infamy is one of the social reasons which Krishna cites that he will incur, uh, and he should fight otherwise. But what is the main reason which Krishna says that you have to fight? Otherwise, what will happen? Anybody? Thank you very much. You nicely summarized. Anybody? यही टाइम पे सब
People
लोग
will
शांत
not
हो
get
जाते हैं.
people will not get a chance to, like the other like for a Kshatriya or a warrior, it's a opportunity which has been created, so they will not get it, they will lose that opportunity to fight in this physical, in this lifetime, because
But
you
it is
by
okay,
this.
right? But it is okay. मुझे तो opportunity नहीं मिली तो चलेगा. At least I am not killing anybody. तो फिर what
But
is the problem then?
that is not his duty. So as far as his duty is for the as a
Kshatriya.
Kshatriya, he is not obeying the rules and regulations as for the Kshatriya.
Correct, correct. So what will happen if he doesn't obey?
He will not go to the heaven.
Okay, chalega. I am okay not to go to heaven. That is something which is desirable, but if it is not available, it is okay. Like we do this in analysis, right? Must have, could have, sort of. It's not a must have that if I don't get heaven, there will be a big problem. It's nice to have. A very big important point, which answers one of the questions of Arjun. Sanju Mataji, Deepak Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, thinking. Kshatriya's dharma is to rule and protect people. That is what Kshatriya dharma is, right, Prabhu?
Yeah, that's correct. The question is, what happens if he doesn't fight? ठीक है, मेरा धर्म है, नहीं किया मैंने, ठीक है, क्या होगा फिर? What happens?
There will be consequences if you don't fight, right?
What are the consequences? नहीं. What was Arjuna's third question? याद है?
His was sinful reactions, right?
Correct. So what is Krishna answering now? So Arjun was thinking that if I fight and kill these relatives and friends, I will incur sinful reactions.
Right.
Krishna is saying that if you do not fight, then you will incur sinful reactions. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties.
Reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the primary reason. The other secondary reasons are losing the reputation as a fighter, or people speaking about the infamy, dishonor being worse than death, and all these are secondary reasons. The primary one is he is supposed to fight being a Kshatriya. If he doesn't fight, he will be not performing his duty, and that will incur sinful sins for him. Okay, so this
Right.
is the uh, uh, kind of one of the answers he gives to his question. What was the second question that Arjun had asked?
Uh, Loss of enjoyment, right,
Correct.
Prabhu?
Very nice, Prabhu. So loss of enjoyment के लिए what did Krishna answer?
Hmm.
No. So partially he answers in 31 and 32, and partial answer comes in 37, which we will learn today. Yeah. So what Krishna is saying is, uh, those who win the war will enjoy on earth. Those who lose the war will go to heavenly planets and will enjoy over there.
Yeah.
Okay. So whether the person is on the side of Kshatriya, or he's on the side of or he's on the side of Pandava or Kaurava, and whether they win or lose, in all the four permutation combinations, there is a uh, enjoyment for everybody. Different forms of enjoyment, but it is there. So what Arjuna had projected was a lose-lose situation, whereas now Krishna is talking about a win-win situation. Yeah, very important point.
But Prabhuji, on a one aspect, uh, how does that sound? If even somebody is on the side of adharma, still he will get heavenly planets enjoyment because
Correct.
he has done so many sins. He should not be getting that kind of benefit out of this war, right?
Correct. So we looked at this particular question last time.
Sorry,
So,
missed that.
no problem. So what the answer to this is, he is not saying the quantity and the length of enjoyment here. He is only saying you will go and enjoy heavenly planets. Okay.
Yeah.
So so okay. तो आपको एक मैं एग्जांपल देता हूं मैं. जब in Ramayana, when Hanuman was given the task of searching for Sita. Okay, so this task was distributed amongst many groups of monkeys. One group was headed by Hanuman, and when they came to a particular place, that time uh, the brother of Jatayu, Sampati, okay, he told him that Ravan has taken her to Lanka, and the only way to go is to jump across this ocean. Okay, so Hanuman was ready to jump across, and during that, there were quite a few incidents that happened during that jump also when he was in the air. There was one demon, a demoness named Shirasa. Yeah, if I hope I got the name correctly.
Sursa, Prabhu, Sursa मेरे ख्याल से.
Surasa. Thank you, Prabhu. Surasa. Yeah. So this demoness had received a boon from Brahma that whoever is flying on the ocean, that India to Lanka, I think it's Indian Ocean, right? She will the shadow will fall on that ocean, and she will be able to control that person's movement via controlling the shadow, and she will be able that person will enter the mouth of Surasa. Okay, so this was the boon given by Brahma to that demoness. So now Hanuman had the power to override that boon, but he did not do it. What did he do? He was highly intelligent. He thought to himself that I am required only to enter the mouth. That's all. So what happens? She opens her mouth, Hanuman enters and immediately comes out. So उसमें हुआ क्या? Brahma's boon was fulfilled and that Sursa demoness could not do any harm to Hanuman. तो यहाँ पे भी ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है कि तुमको हेवनली प्लैनेट्स are being promised to you, but the quantity of enjoyment is not being promised. That will depend on your karma. Now, why this is being done? Because Kshatriyas, they are supposed to be warriors. They are supposed to lay down their lives while fighting. And whom are they fighting for? The meaning of the word Kshatriya is Kshata means harm, and Traya is refers to protection. So one who protects the weaker citizens like women or children or old people or something like them, these people are supposed to protect them. So those who protect them are called kshatriyas, and they are administrators also. So now the kshatriya will obviously think to himself, right, that I am keeping my queen and my wife and my children at home, and I'm going to the battlefield to fight so many different people, and there is a good probability that I will die as well. So while at the expense of making my wife a widow and my children orphan, okay, what am I going to get out of it? So the varnashram dharma paddhati, it it encourages one to perform his duty based on various grounds. One of the ground is to give a reward for performing the duty. So like the way the sin is incurred if you do not perform your duty, similarly a reward is given for performing your duty. So this is that reward for performing your duty. So irrespective of how bad you are, because you have fought a war for whatever principles it is, you will go to heaven. But the quantity of enjoyment can differ. The quantity and quality of enjoyment can differ. So प्रभु ये थोड़ा deep है ये वर्णाश्रम धर्म पद्धति and all that needs to be understood for that. But in a nutshell, this is the case.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So now we will move on to verse number 35. Any question so far? Anybody, any question? Everybody
Yeah,
has.
I mean, I have a question, though it's related to Karam Kand. You had explained in the previous class. I have gone through the video. If
Okay.
you can, if you don't want to take it here because it will disturb the whole class, I don't want to do that. If there is any reference of any YouTube video or anywhere else, I can study more about it. I still couldn't get it, so I want to know about it.
Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's conduct today's class because today's class will also touch upon Karma Kanda up to a good extent. If there is any further doubt remaining, we can take it one to one, or I will try and give you some YouTube links also. Then.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Now, a kind of a forewarning I'm giving you about today's class. Today's class, I'm not sure whether I told you before or not, but by the time you learn Bhagavad Gita until the 18th chapter, there will be many concepts, or I would say misconceptions, which will get destroyed. Okay. So because of the way we have learned via the society, certain meaning certain teachings from the society, Bhagavad Gita doesn't meaning agree to each and every of those teachings. So some of these teachings will be challenged, and today's class is going to challenge one of the teaching, okay, which we will come to. So please um, don't feel bad. uh, Bhagavad Gita in some of the sections speaks, Krishna speaks very bluntly, okay, and because the truth has to be told in a effective manner. So we will see some of the verses we will learn over a period of time. So I'll move on to verse number 35. So you can unmute yourself. Bhayad ranad uparatam
भयाद्राणात् उपगतम्
mansyante tvam maharathaः
मन्सन्त्ये त्वां महारथाः
येषां च त्वं बहुमतो
येषां च त्वं बहुमतो
भूत्वा यास्यसि लाघवम्
भूत्वा यास्यसि लाघवम्
भयाद्रणादुपरतं मन्स्यन्ते त्वां महारथाः येषां च त्वं बहुमतो भूत्वा यास्यसि लाघवम्. Translation.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So now, as I told a while before, the Varnashram Dharma Paddhati, which expects certain type of people like Kshatriyas and Brahmans and Vaishyas and Shudras, perform different actions depending on who they are and depending on which ashram they are in. Okay, so if a brahmachari is there, then he is expected to perform certain actions. If a householder is there, he is expected to work, earn money, feed the family, take care of the society. Yeah. And if a vanaprasthashram is there, sannyas ashram vyakti is there, then they are expected to perform certain activities. Now, as I told you, uh, activities expected to perform, but if not performed, then such people incur sins for not performing an activity. Similarly, activities not expected to perform, but still if you perform them, still you will incur sins for this one. Right? So we talked about an example. A policeman is supposed to protect the weaker people, but if they fight and policeman says, I have not created the fight, he will incur sins. He is supposed to do that. He is supposed to protect. And a person is not supposed to steal or lie. If he steals or if he lies, he will incur sins again. So both ways, the Varnashram Paddhati expects you to perform or not perform certain actions. Similarly, okay, the way sins are incurred, similarly, pious credits, like which is called as punya, is also received if you perform the right activity or if you do not perform the wrong activity. Okay, so reward and sins, both mechanisms are employed by the paddhati, the varnashram system, to generate action. Okay, now there is another method also, which is called as highlighting the drawbacks of not performing your activity and highlighting the positives of performing your activity. So one of them is this method which Krishna is talking about, that this will cause you disrepute and infamy, which means there are people who consider you to be a, a very good warrior, the best archer. Now what they will talk about you after you run Bhayadranad Uparatam, they will think that you have run away from the battlefield out of fear. Right? So Arjun's nice nature, good nature, and the arguments that he is providing in front of Krishna, because of which it doesn't want to fight, like loss of enjoyment and compassion and sinful reactions, these arguments will be rejected by the other warriors, and they will consider you to be a coward. They will consider you to be insignificant. They will think that you have left the battlefield because you were afraid of them. So what Krishna is highlighting here, that they should not think about you in this manner, because in previous verse, if you remember, he has mentioned dishonor is worse than death. Okay, so which means that You should not perform any action which creates a room for somebody to misunderstand you, and because of which that misunderstanding causes disrepute and infamy to you, and you will be dishonored, and that dishonor will be worse than death. This is his point, right? Now I will give you one practical example. Okay. uh, let's take this very practical example, right? So we all are married people. Okay. Now let's say, I am a very good friend of another lady. Okay. And her husband is out on a trip. Let's say my wife is also out, for it gone to India to meet her relatives. Now if she calls me over, and if we have dinner together, and if we sleep as well in the same home, same apartment, right? We may be excellent friends, and she may even have tied me Rakhi also. We may be brother sisters. Our conscience is perfectly clear. There is a good chance that my wife and that lady's husband may also understand us perfectly without any tinge of misunderstanding. But will the society consider this to be right? Definitely not, right? So what am I supposed to do? Even if my mind and her mind and my wife's mind and my friend's husband's mind is perfectly clear, we are still supposed to avoid performing an action which can create room for some misunderstanding, isn't it? Who agrees to this? What do you think? Is this example valid? Lot of
No,
silence.
but Prabhu ji, can you little bit
Well,
थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आया bro.
Yeah,
well,
I'm
I well, I feel like the laws that we, I mean, what it's one. I think it's one of those examples that where this is like a law or a norm of a society or the law of the civilization, so we called down on earth, will not doesn't fall into the rules and regulations of the karma. You know, so
Really,
it may
forget
be that.
karma. Forget karma. Just let's think at a very simple term. Is it okay? Is it okay if I sleep at my female friend's house over a night when her husband or her children or my wife or nobody is there? Definitely not. I think it's common sense. Yeah.
Hmm.
No,
So
it's right.
हाँ क्या बोल रहे हो प्रभु?
मैं बोल रहा हूँ प्रभु जी, it is not right. Yeah, definitely. It
Yeah,
is.
correct. So it's not right, right? So what has happened? We are perfectly clear in our consciousness, our mind, our actions, everything is perfect. But our actions have caused a probability, a room for somebody to doubt my intentions, doubt my actions, right? Doubt my integrity. So who's responsible? Is that person responsible for meaning doubting me? Definitely not. But it is me and my action which is responsible for allowing him or creating a room for him to doubt me. So what
Yep.
Krishna is now highlighting here is your intention may be fantastic, but people's perception may be incorrect. But
So
your intention, if that does not align with the right action, people's perception can create you disrepute. So we have to be
so
conscious.
yeah, sorry
Sorry.
to interrupt, Sachin Prabhu.
Huh.
My question is, so we should always think about people perception. I mean, we should always think about people's mindsets before doing any action.
No, that's not the point. The point is you have to think what is right, what is wrong. You have to do the right thing.
But here
But
also you are doing the right thing, right? I mean, let's say if you are going for a movie, forget about staying at the same
huh,
place.
huh,
Let's say you are going for a movie or with your
huh.
friend, or you are having a dinner or you are having lunch. Still, if people will see you, then definitely they will get some. They will conclude some, some perception they will have in their mind saying, okay, this is not right. So we should think about that and we should avoid these kind of things.
See, the point is basically is it mandatory for you to perform that action?
Okay.
Yeah. So now, was it mandatory for me to sleep over? Not necessary. And
Correct.
if it is, maybe I could have called one more female friend or one more male friend of mine, or my
Okay.
children, or my wife, or somebody like them, and
Okay.
avoid that misconception altogether. So this way, we are taking care of both the points here, to perform that action which can help somebody if it is
Okay.
that's the requirement, as well as avoid that misunderstanding. So what
Okay.
Krishna is highlighting from this context perspective is that your action will not align with your intention, and that can create a cause of some kind of misconception about Arjun, and that will be like a dishonor which will be worse than death. So uh, people people build perceptions based on our actions, not based on our intentions, because our mind cannot be read by them. They will understand only our action. So these factors, like, what is our intention, that should align with our action that we perform physically, and that should also align with the perception that people generate in their mind. So all these have to align with each other, especially since we are living in a society. But if you talk about a person who has absolutely reached the stage of, sthita prajna, then he doesn't need to care about all of this. He continues to perform his actions irrespective of bothering about it. But when it comes to living in a society, especially from the karma kanda perspective, one should be careful about his actions. Okay, so for Arjun, it was necessary to respect the public opinion. So he had to do that to ensure that he is not considered as coward and insignificant, because the ramification of this misunderstanding was not specific to the battle or that Kurukshetra war. It had consequences to the people in Kali Yuga also. People like you and me will now have a good example set by Arjun, that he fought against injustice. Whereas, had Arjun fled the battlefield, what would we think? Arey yaar, person like Arjun did not fight injustice. Who are we to fight? Let us accept injustice as it is. So that portion Krishna covers in the third chapter, verse number 17 onwards. So that's why this verse becomes important now. Let's look at next verse, 2.36. Are you okay with this explanation, or you think you have some difference of thought? Am I going unnecessarily into detail, or this
No,
is
no,
okay?
no. This is good. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
So text 36. Avachavadamsha bahun
अवाच्य वादंश
bahun
बहुन्व
vadishyanti tavahitaha
Vadishyati
वदिष्यन्ति तवाहिताः
nindantastava samarthyam
Indantastatava
निन्दस्तस्सत्त्वसामर्थ्यम्
tato dukkha nu kim.
Dukkam
ततो
Taronanti.
Taram nu kim.
दुःखतरम्.
Translation.
Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you?
So Krishna is now telling Arjuna that you are, being recognized. You are recognized as a great warrior and who abides by religious principles. But in this situation, your compassion will be seen as a weakness. It will be seen as cowardice. So Krishna is asking a kind of a counter question to Arjuna. Okay, will this not be painful for you if you will be dishonored? Okay, and people will speak so ill about you. So will it not cause you dishonor? Will it not be painful for you? So how will you be able to live? Yeah, you will suffer so much. And if you remember, we talked about one incident where Duryodhan had sent Ulluk Ulluk was the son of Shakuni to send a message to Arjun and Bhima just the night before the war was supposed to start. And Duryodhan told Ulluk to tell them that, oh Bhima, you may be a great warrior, but I made you cook, perform, some menial activities like cooking, okay, in the kingdom of somebody. So now cooking in itself is not menial activity, but the point is these kind of activities were not performed by Kshatriyas previously. So when Bhima hadn't done this before, okay, for cooking for general public or cooking for the king, these kind of activities, he had cooked for Pandavas themselves or for himself. He was a good cook. So, but when this is being done as a matter of duty for somebody, then it is a different perspective. So he's saying that I made you cook, and to Arjun he said that I made you a eunuch and made you dance in the kingdom of Virat. So don't forget, I can do this to you in the battlefield also. So these were the words used by Duryodhan via the mouth of Ulluk. So Krishna is now telling him that you have already experienced such kind of words from Duryodhan, and you know how these words were painful for all of you. And now you are performing an action which will invite general public also to talk about your inability or cowardice and running away from the battlefield. Now imagine how much painful it would be for you. So now, for a Kshatriya, honor is very important because that is how he will be able to generate respect for himself, and he will be able to do the administration function for the society. That is also one reason why other kings take a moment, they think twice before attacking a kingdom, because they generally go by the reputation of the fighter, of the king. So when the reputation of a king is that he flees away from the battlefield, any king would like to attack your kingdom and usurp it. So that he is saying that this kind of infamy will cause you further damage later. Hare Krishna. Okay, I will move on to the next verse. Now, this particular verse, okay, more than this, actually, the next verse will shake the concept of punya when we talk about, right? So let's look at that when we come to it. So let's read verse number 37. Hato va prapsyasi swargam
तो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम
jitva va bhokshase mahim
जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महिम
tasmaduttishta kaunteya
तस्मात्
तस्मादृष्ट्यत्
उत्थीय
कौन्तेय
युद्धाय कृत निश्चयः
युद्धः
युद्धाय
कृतनिश्चयः
कृतनिश्चय
हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गं जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महिम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः. Yeah, translation.
Hare Krishna. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight.
So now this verse marks the end of Krishna's answers to Arjuna's questions number 2 and 3. Right? So what was question number 2? Loss of enjoyment. And question number 3 was sinful reactions, right? So Krishna with this verse is now telling him that there will be two outcomes related to you. Either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer, you will win the war, and you will enjoy the earthly kingdom. And prior to that, he has talked about other warriors also. They will also face similar result. So he is now summing up everything to say that there is no scenario where you will not enjoy. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, Arjun was talking about a lose-lose situation. Krishna is now talking about a win-win scenario. There is no probability of a loss of enjoyment anywhere or for anybody. And there he is saying that with that other third question also, sinful reactions, he has already answered that if you do not fight the war, you will incur sins. Not that if you fight, you will incur sins. So both being answered, Krishna is now saying, Yuddhaya Kruta Nishchaya, get up. Kruta Nishchaya. Kruta is to perform an action, Nishchaya is with determination. So he's saying, fight, fight with determination. Get up. Now, why get up? Because if you remember in the first chapter, at the end of the chapter and the last verse, Sanjay says, Upavishat is the word he uses to say that Arjun sat down on the chariot. So he's saying, get up. These small things also make a difference. Yeah? So when we study Bhagavad Gita, one should study it so analytically that, every small word that Bhagwan has used, he has used with a reason. Yeah? So it is not unnecessarily that Bhagwan will say something which doesn't make sense. So now this particular section, verse number 31 till 37, addresses Arjuna's questions based on something called as Karma Kanda. Now we did speak about Karma Kanda in the last Wednesday, sorry, Tuesday. Does anyone remember what does Karma Kanda mean? Anybody?
Karam Kanda Prabhu is as the rituals, is it? As defined in Vedas.
Correct. So what does that mean exactly?
If we do this sacrifice, we'll get that benefit or that result will be
Correct.
secured by doing
Correct.
certain practices, right?
Correct. Exactly. Exactly. So in a nutshell, if you have to speak about Karma Kanda, it means that the Vedas have prescribed certain rules and regulations. Okay. And for every rule and regulation, there is a benefit associated with the performance and there is a sin associated with a non-performance. And if we twist it, let's say there is a regulation for not performing certain activities also, that one is not supposed to perform so and so activities. So there is a benefit associated with non-performance and there is a drawback or a sin associated with performance. So every do has a benefit and every don't, if you perform them, has a sin and all the other combinations also. So, and when you perform this with the intention of obtaining some material enjoyment, then that whole process is called as karma kanda. Okay. So performing an action is not a problem. Performing that action with the mentality of material enjoyment, bodily enjoyment is a problem. Okay. And this point you should understand it very well. And you will notice that from the second chapter, 18th verse, not even 18th, the second and third verse, Krishna tells Arjun that he should fight. Okay. Then he reinitiates the same call in the verse 18 also, and now in verse number 30 again, in and 37 also. So what he is communicating? The action that Arjun is supposed to perform, Krishna uniformly maintains that same action, the same message from this second and third verse of second chapter till the last verse of 18th chapter. So Krishna has not changed what Arjuna is supposed to do. The only change that Krishna has done is the mentality behind with which that action is performed, that Krishna changes. So until verse number 37, Krishna is telling Arjun to perform this action out of two reasons. One is that if he performs, he will get some benefit, and if he doesn't perform, he will incur sins. Right? So out of some attraction to a benefit or out of fear of some sins, Krishna is telling that he should perform the action. But that he continuously changes, and in the immediate next verse you will see he changes the tone of the verse completely. So what he does, Krishna, over a period of all the verses in Bhagavad Gita, is action remaining constant, the mentality with which the action is performed, that Krishna changes. And you will see the change over a period of so many verses in Bhagavad Gita, and we will speak about it specifically. So now the mentality is do it because you will get a benefit, or do it because you can avoid sins. Then in the next verse, he will change it now. We will, when we come to it, we will speak about it. Okay. So let's look at in a summary manner the course of action that Arjun is, meaning, Krishna teaches Arjun. The first is the soul is eternal. So one should possess the required knowledge about the soul so that he will not lament when the body is lost. Then the second is he talks about the destructibility of the body also, which is like a dress. You keep changing when the dresses are old, right? You change the body when it becomes old. He also highlights that death is inevitable. Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. One who takes birth dies, one who dies takes birth again. So he cannot avoid the death of Bhishma and Drona. So he's saying you are avoiding the duty of fighting to avoid the death of Bhishma and Drona. But that is not practically going to happen. Bhishma and Drona will one day surely die. But definitely they will get their new body also whenever possible. But by avoiding your duty of fighting, you are actually incurring sins, but you still cannot avoid the inevitable. Okay. And then the other perspectives is saying, yeah, if you do not fight, you will incur sin, you will incur infamy, people will speak bad about you, dishonor will be there, and it will be worse than death. So from all the perspectives, Krishna is saying that if you do not fight, you will be the loser. If you fight, you will be the winner. That's all. So we are now we have not almost ended the section, a particular section in the second chapter. But I would like to do verse number 38. We will do that today. And then you will start realizing how Bhagavad Gita has taken a big turn from the perspective of bodily enjoyment, how Krishna brings it to the level of karma yoga. So we will discuss. Any questions so far before I move on to this next section? Anybody, any question? Garimaji, your question should mostly get answered in the next verse. If it doesn't, we will speak about it in detail.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jijit Babu, Jitu Prabhu, Deepak Prabhu, Manju Mataji, any question you have, even if it is silly, doesn't matter. Please speak about it. If I cannot answer, I will read some books, I will consult my seniors, and I will give that answer to you.
Prabhu, I have something in mind. So when it was spoken that even the warriors who have done some impious activities will go to heavenly planets uh, when they fight in Kurukshetra. Now the thing is, when they go to the heavenly planets, does the consciousness go with them? Meaning, do they?
Yeah, yeah, it does. So, Prabhu, two things we need to understand. Okay, so we will be covering part of this in our next verse, but just to give a synopsis about it. So we have two types of bodies. Okay. One is the sthula body, gross body, which is this hand, body, stomach, legs, and all that. Okay. And then there is called as a subtle body, which is called as sthula sharir and sukshma sharir. Okay. So sukshma sharir does not have physical characteristics, like you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't feel it. There is no meaning, you can't touch it that way. So the sthula sharir is made up of the Pancha Mahabhuta, which is earth, water, fire, air, ether. Okay. But the Sukshma sharir is made up of Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. Okay. Now these Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar are also part of the material world. Okay. So when the material world is created, Man, Buddhi, Ahankar also constitute in the creation process, or contribute in the creation process. Okay. So when a person or when a soul travels to heavenly planet, heaven is also part of the material world. Okay. So
Okay.
now when one goes to heaven, he goes along with its man, buddhi, and ahankar. So he enjoys over there. That is when the mind gets satisfied to a certain extent. The ahankar also gets satisfied. And when he comes down back from heaven, okay, he comes along with man, buddhi, ahankar. So chetna is along with the soul itself. So Chetna is a function of the soul, and the soul is accompanied by Man, Buddhi, Ahankar in any place of the whole material world that he goes in. When he gets moksha, when he gets mukti, that mukti, at that time he goes out of the material world. At that time he gives up the Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, and then he is able to go outside the material world. So people think, यार when a person dies, they think हाँ उसको मुक्ति मिल गई. नहीं, मुक्ति मिलना is multiple stage वाली मुक्ति होती है. Okay, just by getting rid or getting free of the material body doesn't mean he has become mukta. He has not got mukti. Mukti is achieved when one person goes out of material world and he gives up his subtle body, man, buddhi, hankar. Okay, so heaven में जाता है, consciousness के साथ जाता है, because consciousness is a function of the soul. He goes with man, buddhi, hankar, and he comes down also again with man, buddhi, hankar.
So Sachin sir, I have a doubt. Sorry. So if you're going to the heaven, uh, you will not come back again to the world, right? To the earth. I don't know. I mean,
नहीं, इसके लिए मैंने बोला ना, let's go through the next verse, and that's why I told that some of the concepts will be shaken, the foundation will be shaken, and this is one of them. Okay, so let's look at the
okay.
next verse. Okay, so text number 38, sukha dukhe same krutva
सुख
Dukhe same krutva
labha labho jaya jayo
Labha
लाभा
labho
labha
jaya
लाभो
labho
jayo.
जया जयो
jaya jayo
tato yuddhaya yujjasva.
Tato
ततो
yuddhaya
युद्धाय
tato
युज्यस्व
yudhaya yujasva
नैवं पापम अवाप्स्यसि.
Naivam
नैवं
papyam
पापम्
avashyati.
अवाप्स्यसि
papam vapyasasi
सुख दुःखे समे कृत्वा लाभा लाभौ जया जयौ ततो युद्धाय युज्यस्व नैवं पापम अवाप्स्यसि. Okay, translation.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Though fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so now कर्म कांड से लेके now the transition is happening to the karma yoga aspect. What is karma yoga? Do your duty without expectation of any result. Do your duty, but perform your actions as a matter of duty. Okay, you cannot avoid your duty and you should not avoid your duty. So whether you get good results or bad results from a material perspective, one should still perform his duty. Okay, how different it is than the way we think. Whenever we want to perform an activity, हम लोग पहले calculation करते हैं, what is the profit, what is the loss. अगर loss है, we don't go ahead. Profit है, we go ahead. Correct? So this calculation is not the right way of deciding whether we should perform an action or not. The action should be performed based on what is my duty, what am I supposed to do. People, let's say, uh, sometimes take sick leaves in the office. So they basically are tired. They may want to sleep also, right? It's a natural thing. But at the same time, let's say a person realizes that the child, the son or a daughter, is having a high temperature. What he will do? He will give up all his laziness. He will get up from the bed immediately, take the daughter or the child to the hospital and ensure that she is cured. Right? तो वो टाइम पे उसका लेजीनेस कहाँ गया? कहीं नहीं गया, वो भगा दिया उसने. Why? Because the duty of being a father and taking care of the child was far more important than that laziness, than the sleep. Correct? So this is how we have to evaluate our action. What is my duty? What am I supposed to do? Based on that, I will decide whether I should do it or I will do it or I will not do it. Not based on the results. So Krishna is now highlighting to Arjun here that your decision of fighting or not fighting should not be based on the outcome of the war. You cannot say ki because my relatives are going to die, I will not fight. Because I'm not going to get any enjoyment, I will not fight. Because I'm going to get sinful reactions, I will not fight. And he's saying, if you think from the perspective of duty, okay, as a matter of being a Kshatriya, and ignore the outcome, which is happiness or distress or profit or loss or gain or victory or defeat, whatever it is, then you will not incur sin. A very important point here, meaning you will not incur sin if you perform your duty, and even if that according to you is wrong. But if you perform your duty, okay, sorry, if you do not perform your duty, even if you think it is right not to, you will still incur your sin because that's not your duty. Okay, now why are we constantly talking about the heaven and all that aspect here? So let's look at just a few points here. Okay, what does karma kanda kind of play a role here? So karma kanda, what does it do? It has certain do's, certain don'ts, right? It doesn't force you to perform that activity. Let's say uh, there is certain puja that is supposed to be done in order to achieve a certain benefit. Let's say, for example, a person wants money. So there will be certain sacrifices, certain pujas that are supposed to be done as mentioned in the Vedas. तो वो परफॉर्म करता है and he gets the result. But there is no force on that person कि आपको perform करना चाहिए. He has been given an option. If you want, you perform. If you don't want, don't perform. Correct? Perform करो तो benefit मिलेगा. If you do not perform, benefit नहीं मिलेगा. So what happens? There is no the decision. Okay, the decision of whether or not to perform is taken by a person based on his material, in his inclination towards material enjoyment. Okay, now होता क्या है इसमें, that the Vedas describe the various heavenly enjoyments in a great detail and great depth. तो इसके वजह से क्या होता है, when people read this literature, they get attracted to certain enjoyment only because of the description. Okay, so let's say, for example, your friend goes and comes back and he tells you, wow, this movie is so good, that this good, that good, and all the factors he tells you. What happens? It generates a desire in you to go and watch the movie. Otherwise, that desire was never there. You never had any intention to watch the movie. But abhi ho gaya. Somebody goes to a park or a theme park or some kind of enjoyment they get, and they will describe it very nicely, and that will generate a desire in the other person. तो वेदांत से भी वही होता है. So Ved, when they have described this, people think that this material enjoyment is all in all. There is nothing better than the material enjoyment. तो इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है? ओके, अभी जैसे जीतू प्रभु ने सवाल किया था, राइट, कि once person goes to heaven he never comes back, but that is not the case, and we will look at two Bhagavad Gita verses which talk about it. So what happens is, when I read literature which describes these benefits in so marvelous, beautiful manner that I get attracted to the benefit, then I would like to perform those activities which will give me those benefits, those pujas, those sacrifices, and all that. Then I will get the benefit. I will be able to go to heaven. But uske baad kya hota hai, that Vedas is not talking about. Okay, and that is why Krishna, you know, rejects Vedas in verse number 42 and 43 of the second chapter. जब हम लोग वो, when we reach to it, we will talk about it. Okay, now this particular verse for Arjun, he was hesitating to fight because of sinful reactions. Now Krishna is telling him, you don't worry about any of the result. You as a matter of your Kshatriya duty, you will be able to, meaning, avoid the sins altogether. And that's why this verse and the next verse, they are acting as a turning point of Bhagavad Gita. And आप लोग अभी, when you go forward, you will understand why this is turning point करके. Okay, so I'll just show two verses to you, and then we will discuss the concept of punya. Okay. Okay. Before we go to this one, what according to you is punya? Punya. What is punya? What is pious?
Good deeds, Prabhu. Any
Good
good
deeds.
works.
Example?
जैसे हॉस्पिटल खोला टू सर्व पेशेंट्स, राइट, या डोनेशन दिया किसी को खाने को, फूड दिया सो दैट ही हैज, जो भी भूखा था
Okay.
उसको फूड दिया, या किसी छोटे बच्चे का स्कूल फीस पे किया, सम काइंड ऑफ अ चैरिटी वी डू इट, राइट?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And why does one do that?
There's a selfish reason behind it. People, if we do punya, we'll get the benefit out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said. Any thoughts around this, Jitu Prabhu, Jidit Prabhu ji, Manju Mata ji? You are silent today, Manju Mata ji.
This is not the right thing with this intention.
Yeah, you are
I
right.
think
Right.
Karan said it right.
Yeah, you very said it very right, and that is the practical aspect behind it. And the Vedas encourage also. Manju Mataji, you are quite silent today.
No, today I've moved to a new place and the net connectivity comes on and off. So in between yeah.
Okay. Okay, so very rightly said, it is performed with a selfish intention. Okay, and that selfish intention is क्या होता है कि if I give 1 unit to somebody, I will get minimum 1 or even 10 units back to me. And that's why there are certain days which are considered to be auspicious कि ये दिन को पुण्य करना चाहिए और ये दिन को दान करना चाहिए, तो आपको 100 गुना वापस मिलता है, right? So these are the mechanisms by which charity is generated from you. और वो क्यों करते हैं, वो भी गलत नहीं है. उसमें होता क्या है कि when we give something in charity, ओके, हमारा जो अटैचमेंट होता है ना ऑन आवर मटेरियल पोजीशन, वो थोड़ा कम होता है. ओके, तो लेट्स से अगर 10 dirhams किसको देना रहेगा, तो आई विल बी ओके. बट 100 dirhams देना रहेगा तो आई मे बी थिंक ट्वाइस. 1000 dirhams को मैं डायरेक्टली ना बोलूंगा. सो दैट मीन्स व्हाट माय डिग्री ऑफ अटैचमेंट इज डिफरेंट. ओके, किसी के पास द सेम थिंग ही विल से कि 1 dirham में दूंगा बट 10 dirham नहीं दूंगा, तो ही हैज इवन मोर अटैचमेंट. somebody will say I will give million dirhams but I don't want anything in return, तो उसका अटैचमेंट और भी कम है. बट द मोर वी गिव, हमारा अटैचमेंट वैसे वैसे कम कम होते जाता है, विच इज गुड. दैट इज वाई चैरिटी इज एनकरेज. इसका प्रॉब्लम कैसे होता है, लेट्स सी. ओके, सो पुण्य. ओके, लेट्स डिस्कस फॉर 2-3 minutes अबाउट पुण्य. तो पुण्य का ड्रॉबैक क्या होता है? डू यू थिंक पुण्य इज गुड और पुण्य इज बैड? Who thinks punya is bad?
Prabhu, yeah, even it is a good deed, it is still entangle us into this karam bandhans, because there will be, we are doing some action, there will be some reaction to it, so we will be still into this cycle of birth and death cycle.
Acha, okay. Anybody agrees to Prabhuji, or you have a difference of opinion? Any other thought?
आई फील पुण्य, मतलब पुण्य जिसको हमने अभी सर्विस डिफाइन किया, इफ आई मीन हैज टू, पुण्य किस भाव से, किस इंटेंशन से हो रही है, वो डिसाइड करेगा कि वो पुण्य सही है या गलत है. मतलब अगर मैं पुण्य कर रही हूँ या मैं दान दे रही हूँ और मैं 10 लोगों को बता रही हूँ, या मैं पंखे पे अपना नाम छुपवा रही हूँ आश्रम में, सो दैट इज टू फुलफिल माय प्राइड, माय ईगो. या मैं इस इंटेंशन से करती हूँ कि किसी को खाना खिलाना, कि कल को मेरे नेक्स्ट लाइफ बर्थ में मुझे खाना मिलता रहे, तो मैं इसलिए किसी को खाना खिला रही हूँ, या टू गेन समथिंग. तो दैट इज ऑल विद गलत भाव, मतलब वो भाव गलत है. तो the act is fine, but the intention, the भाव has to be the purest, जिससे वो कहा जाता है ना कि ऐसे दान दो कि दाएं हाथ का दान दिया हुआ बाएं हाथ को भी ना पता चले कि दान दिया है.
Correct. So that is that saying is about highlighting it to others for your pride, for your honor perspective. But the other point which you mentioned is also equally important, wherein one performs these activities with the intention of getting back from the God at some point or the other. Even that is incorrect, right? So in a nutshell, what you are saying is action is not bad. The mentality behind which the action is performed, that has to be correct. Then only the action can be right. Correct? That's what you are saying, right? A very valid and perfect point, and that's what I was expecting. So punya ka drawback kya hota hai? So as Deepak Prabhu ji said, so punya की वजह से क्या होता है? You will be okay. Let's first analyze पाप. पाप के वजह से क्या होता है? Yeah. So when you perform पाप, you will be forced to suffer for the results of the पाप. Correct? Everybody agrees?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say I am 75, 80-year-old person. Okay, and I do some पाप. Let's say मैंने चोरी की. Okay, so it's a पाप. So I'm supposed to suffer. But let's say I die on the next day. So now, when will I suffer? I will have to take another body. Only then the result of that pap can be given to me, which will make me suffer. Barabar?
Yes.
So
Yes.
now let's change the example to punya. I'm an 80-year-old person. Okay, I see a beautiful heroine in a movie, and I develop a desire to marry her. Now, वो तो मुझे पता है, I cannot marry her at this age. So I come across some friend who tells me about some Vedas and some sacrifices to be done, and I am interested in it because I want such a beautiful heroine as my wife. तो मैं वेदास का वो पढ़ के सेक्शन पढ़ के I perform sacrifices, and now after that I am now eligible to get that wife. If Krishna gives me a beautiful wife at that age of 80, will I get any physical enjoyment? Definitely not. Right? So to ensure that my desire is fulfilled, what will Krishna require to do? He will have to give me another body. And when I am in the youth, then he will help me come across some woman who could be equally beautiful, and then I can marry her. Correct? So what has happened now?
Yeah.
The punya has also forced me to take a birth again. But was this the objective of my human life? Are
No,
we
it's
born as a human to enjoy at a bodily level, or come out of the cycle of birth and death altogether? So what has happened? The body was given us for a specific purpose. We did not perform activities which were relevant to achieving that purpose, because of which we are forced to take another birth again. And the same thing happens with respect to going to heavenly planets also. So pap is definitely bad. One should not do. But people who think that punya is good and should be performed, they are also they also carry this. It's a misconception. This thought is wrong. Punya forces you to take birth again. That birth may be good, better than the previous birth, possible, but it is still within a human body. It is still within a body. It is still within this material world. So there is a good chance that you might perform some incorrect activities in the next life, and then your downfall can start from there. Or you might even perform even more punya and raise your birth even better, but there will still be a chance that you will still fall down. And even if you do not fall down, you will still remain within this material world, which will cause you birth and death and birth and death and birth and death. That is why punya is also not recommended. And that is
But
where the yes.
sorry to interrupt, Sachin sir. But for me, punya means to, if somebody does punya, it means he's morely interested to get God, right? I mean, I mean, he should not get next burn. He should avoid the next burn and go to merge with God, right? No, no, this is not the case.
Okay, पहली बात मतलब merging with the God is something which is not recommended by Bhagavad Gita. Okay, when we talk about Jnana Yoga, when we go to fourth chapter, then we will discuss about it in detail. Secondly, punya, okay, as Garima Mataji also said, the mentality behind which with which we perform this action, if it is selfless, completely selfless, then that is not punya. That is something called as akarma. This concept will be introduced in the fourth chapter, akarma. Okay, so as of the moment, only pap and punya are the two types of karma that Krishna is teaching. There is this
So in
third
that
karma.
case, yeah, sorry to interrupt again, Sachin sir. So in that case, what Rakshasa were doing in Satya Yuga or Dwapar Yuga, they are
Huh.
doing punya.
Yes, if they were performing activities for the Lord, then it is not punya. If the king, like say for example, certain kings used to perform Rajasuya Yajna or Ashwamedha Yajna and all that, they used to garner lot of punya so that they could go to heavenly planets and enjoy. So that is punya, which will force them to take birth again. And let's look at this particular verse in chapter 9. Okay. So Krishna is talking. Well, not go into the background. We'll speak about it when it comes. So Krishna is talking about the people who study the Vedas with a selfish motive. So he's saying those who study the Vedas, drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets. That's the selfish motive. Yeah, worship me indirectly. Okay, we'll discuss about this concept later. What happens? They are purified by sinful reactions, and that's why they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. Now, all this is okay. Until this particular verse, it is okay. What happens to such people later? That he talks about in the next verse. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. This is the outcome. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. Now, this verse will remove all the doubts. So, performing actions mentioned in the Vedas is not wrong. Performing those actions, okay, for the for seeking the heavenly planet of Indra, seeking the heavenly planets, that is wrong. Okay, seeking sense enjoyment is bad by performing, by adhering to the principles of the Vedas. So, what Krishna is highlighting here is performing an action does not determine the outcome. Performing the action with a certain mentality determines whether it is a pap or a punya or a karma. Is that okay? Is it clear or did it
Yes,
confuse
sir.
you more?
No, 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 it's clear. Thank you so much.
Any question around this one? Sorry, I have taken few extra minutes of yours, but leaving you all with a concept half introduced would have been difficult for you. So I thought let's go a little bit extra. Does this clarify the thought about punya? Garima Mataji, does
Yeah.
this answer your question? Karma kanda
Mm,
related to a certain extent?
no, so if I ask you very small question, what is karma kand? Okay. Is it like doing an action uh, without with the good intention? Is with the right bhav? Is that what means karma kanda?
No,
Right?
no,
Yes.
no, no. Karma kanda, as I mentioned, is performing an activity within the rules and regulations of Shastra, but with a selfish motive. That is karma kanda.
Oh,
So
so
the
with the selfish motive is karma kanda.
yes, with a selfless motive, it becomes karma yoga.
Oh, so it's okay. So I shouldn't pay heed to
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And
Okay.
the third aspect is when you offer the results of your activities to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, then it becomes bhakti.
Okay.
Okay. So
Perfectly
karma
fine.
kanda, selfish, karma yoga, selfless, and offering the results to the Lord, bhakti. And that is a karma, which is introduced in the fourth chapter.
Mm.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Any questions around this one? Take your moment to think about it. You can have ask these questions in the next class also. Okay, what about the next Tuesday? Are you all available or shall we skip? Do you have any plans to go out somewhere?
What's
Vijit?
next?
Prabhuji,
What's
I am
next
available.
Tuesday?
Okay,
That is it
Tuesday is
some holiday?
20th June. Okay,
Is
Garima
it some?
Mataji, you are in India right now. Okay, we
No, no,
have,
no. I'm not in India. I'm here only. What's there's
okay.
some
So
holiday? Is it next
yeah,
Tuesday?
Eid holidays are coming up, right? So people
But
may
then
have
that
made,
next is 20th. The Eid holidays
yeah,
will be the following Tuesday of that.
yeah,
That
yeah,
would
yeah,
be
you are right.
next Tuesday. Sorry.
Yeah, sometimes people make plans. That's why I was asking.
Oh, okay. No, no, I'm here only. I'm
Okay,
in Dubai as I'm in Dubai only. My number is India number.
okay, fine. Jijit Prabhuji, are you here?
I'm here, Prabhu. I'll be here.
Okay, great. Jitu Prabhu, you are also here, right? So let's have the class
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Hare Krishna. See you all next week. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
I hope this
Hare
was
Krishna.
insightful and that must have helped you understand a few concepts. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
Definitely.
you
Krishna.
so much. Thanks
Thank
a
you so
lot.
much.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.